yeah, let's talk about the New York Rangers and what their team has been like since the trade deadline. They're rolling right along. You look at some of the guys that they've added. When you look at Frank Vetrano, that was a little underrated pickup at the deadline. And Andrew Kopp. Not a lot of people were talking about Frank Vetrano for a fourth round pick, but he's come in, has been excellent, 5 goals in 8 games. Andrew Kopp has been really good as well. And then you've got a situation where, another guy that's sort of lurking in the weeds is Tyler Mott in terms of his addition as well. What do you make of the New York Rangers since the deadline, a team that has now passed the Pittsburgh Penguins in the standings in the Metropolitan Division? Looks like they'll be hosting some games to start the series in the playoffs.
Well, they've won 5 of 6 since trade deadline, so it's making GM Chris Drury look really good right now. And I tell you what, when Frank Vetrano went from the Florida Panthers to the Rangers, I said, man, do not sleep on this. This guy's been a 20-goal scorer. He can shoot the puck as well as anybody. He was my kryptonite in pro hockey. I couldn't stop him. I remember talking with his old teammate from UMass Amherst, Joel Hanley, defenseman in the Dallas organization. He said nobody could shoot like Vetrano that he'd seen. Well, you're starting to see a bit of that. And part of it's because he's played an elevated role. He's got great chemistry with Zibanejad. It looks like they've played together forever. And you've mixed in Kreider, who can fly on that line. It's been great for Vetrano. But Frank, I think the Andrew Kopp ad is potentially looking like one of the best so far at the trade deadline. He's played all 3 situations: power play, penalty kill, even strength. Look at the point production, 7 points in 5 games. He's a perfect Gerard Gallant type of player. Goes to the front of the net, plays hard, creates turnovers, all of those things. I think Drury's done a really nice job at finding players that fit within the mold of the coach and the makeup of that club. And they did it without having to give away a whole lot. So I'm really impressed with what the Rangers have done.
Well, part of that is that it sounds like the coach at least has input. Maybe he's not the guy making the calls, but at least Chris Drury's listening to him, saying, what is the type of player that you like? Who fits in with your group? And I think that's one of the big things that's sometimes missing when you talk about a coach-GM relationship. Obviously, there's communication there, but sometimes the GM is building it in terms of his vision and how he sees it. And then that player is a square peg in a round hole for the coach who's filling out the lineup card. And sometimes there can maybe be a little bit of friction there. I just really appreciate when you look at Frank Vetrano, the addition really without having to give up much for the 4th round pick that we talked about, but GMs that find pressure situations. You think back to the Florida Panthers. This is a move that they had to make for salary cap considerations. And had they known about the Aaron Ekblad injury, they probably wouldn't have ended up making it. They liked Frank Vetrano, wanted to keep him, but knew that they were going to be going after a guy like Claude Giroux to bring him in and fit him in. And the Panthers were originally asking for a second. No one steps up to the plate to bail them out with their cap issue. The Rangers slide in and get him for a 4th. So some tidy business there by Chris Drury and the Rangers. But let's talk about the other trade deadline additions, Mike, and the guys that have fit in well to this point. When you take a look at this list of guys and how that they've produced since they've gotten and joined their new teams, Claude Giroux stands out, 5 points in 4 games, all apples. For me, Mike, it's Rickard Rakell. You think back to last year's deadline and the Pittsburgh Penguins, they added Jeff Carter, and what a pickup he was, how he fit in quite seamlessly. I watched Rickard Rakell's first game with the Pens, and I was like, wow, this guy is so noticeable. He really seemed to fit in perfectly. Playing on a line now with Evgeny Malkin. They may be getting Jason Zucker back tonight. He's a game-time decision. You can see their lineup card on dailyfaceoff.com. When you look at this group, who stands out?
Well, I'll definitely agree with you on Rakell. I mean, I'm even thinking to the end of the game against the Rangers the other night, and he's playing goalie, making saves against the post with an empty net. Like, he's bought in, man. He looks energized. Had a great goal on the rush, but I think Giroux is really fit. And it's not surprising because he's been such a consistent player throughout his career. The Florida Panthers should have known exactly what they were going to get, but there's always apprehension of if that's exactly going to play out. And it has. And Giroux, for me, yeah, it's all assists, it's not goals, but 2 have been on the power play. He's killed penalties for the team. He's been able to switch between center, right wing. He's been perfect fit for that club. And as you said, it took a little bit of cap wrangling to be able to make space for him. And also credit to Bill Zito. When Aaron Ekblad went down, he went out and grabbed Robert Haig, a defenseman, to fill in some space on the back end with the Florida Panthers. So I thought they were great managing the cap. I also really like what Giordano has done in Toronto. that team needed some veteran presence on the back end. I know he's not on our list, but he's made a really positive difference. Same with Nick Leddy in St. Louis. That team looked really good the other night, and Leddy's starting to now play an elevated role with that club and really start to fit in.
Yeah, I look, we'll talk about Marc-Andre Fleury in a bit in our next edition of the Blue Paint. Love seeing the fan interaction with him already in Minnesota, people throwing flowers on the ice, bouquets of flowers after games. He's had a near flawless start. But I wanted to give a little love to Max Domi with the Carolina Hurricanes. We talk about value adds with Frank Vetrano. Like, Max Domi ended up being essentially free. You can get this guy for free 99 on deadline day as long as you get the trade in by 2:59 Eastern. They didn't have anywhere else to send him. Carolina says, you know what? We'll take a chance. This is a team that has found value everywhere. There might be some talk, and I think John Tortorella on ESPN was saying, previously having coached Domi with the Blue Jackets, saying, this guy, in so many words, he was essentially saying is a locker room cancer. Well, I don't know. That doesn't scare the Hurricanes. They took on Tony DeAngelo. They took on other players that they've added to their group. When you trade basically next to nothing to get a guy that just a few seasons ago had a 72-point year, those type of guys, you never know what happens in the playoffs. You get 1 or 2 goals from Max Domi in an important spot, and you've won easily without even having to try.
Yeah. And there's one person that's in charge of all this in Carolina, and it's certain terms of the culture and how things go, and it's Rod Brindamore. Everybody you hear talk that's played for him would go through a wall for him, and he cultivates that personality of the team, and Domi's fit in.